Well, hello. So, I kind of need to do a reading wrap up before the last 2 months of the year happen. Because, weirdly enough, the past 3 months have been some of the most active and most well read months ever. And that's mostly because of our Dear Lord and Savior manga. But I literally have only have one more book until I reach my 50 for the year goal. So, the last thing that I was talking about in my last reading wrap up was the first book in the Married to Magic series. Now, this whole series, I'm just going to put them together because otherwise we're going to be here way too long. This whole series is like a 3 star to like a 2.5, and that goes for all 5 of these books. Okay, this was like one of the most cursed book series that I've read. Not even just like, oh, the writing and stuff. Literally, so much happened to me while I was reading this series. Like, I think the universe was trying to tell me to stop, okay? Our air conditioning went out during the summer. It was like the end of, it was beginning of August. It was still 100 something outside. And we go to a hotel. The beds aren't actually full queens. So me and my sibling are scrunched together on this bed with a dog laying at our feet. And then I also had like mild food poisoning. So yeah, this whole series, I was reading it for a video. It's a two-parter because of the sheer amount of books and rambling that I go on. And I truly do think, and I said this in the video as well, that I don't believe that these are meant to be read back to back the way that I read them. They're all incredibly similar. It's very not it would be insta-lovey, and it also like it was good to begin with, and then it just became like so it felt like she was catering to like a more adult audience as we went on, because the first couple books were very light with the smut, and then the last like 2 of them, it was like, oh my gosh, like there was so much more, and I was like, it's for a video, I have to finish it. This is the only reason why. Otherwise I would have probably DNF'd after the second book, probably. And I think if you're looking for like a really fun like fantasy, not like super, I feel bad because I feel like I'm roasting her right now, but it's not like not the most like well written, love story that you're gonna read. But it's fun, and I think if you space them out enough and you kind of turn your brain off every now and then while you're reading it, it's great. Now, I was very much talked into reading the next series, and I'm gonna kind of bunch the series together because there's a lot that I've read, and I was kind of not forced. Okay, that's very dramatic. I was very much encouraged to read the Raven Cycle series, and it was $15 on Pango Books for all 4 books, and they're all in great condition. And you're gonna sit here and tell me that I shouldn't take that offer? And I don't know how long I've heard about these books, but I've heard about them ever since I started reading back when I was like 13, or got really into reading when I was 13. I've heard about this series so much, and I was very hesitant to read it, not only because of the hype, but also because it has something that I don't really enjoy, which is urban fantasy like elements. But I will say this series is very much for me, because I'm a character girly through and through, and this series, if you want like a really extensive built out magical system with like tons of world building or like political intrigue and stuff, this is absolutely not the book series for this. This is if you want to be nostalgic of being a teenager, or kind of first love, and just those types of relationships and the complexities that they have within it, and those characters and the complexities that they have by themselves. She's such a good character writer, and it's so strong in this, and you just fall in love with every character, and it's so good. But I ended up giving the Raven Cycle, I would give it like a 4.5 average for the entire series. I will say didn't love the last book as much as I was hoping that I would. The ending, though, for that was really good. But it is something that I would, which is a crazy thing for me to say specifically because I've never reread a book, and I don't think I have the capacity to do that. Unless it's like Six of Crows, then maybe I'll do that, which I have been wanting to do, so maybe. But I actually wouldn't mind rereading these books, which is crazy to say, especially because it's an urban fantasy, but within the past 3 months, I've kind of learned that I made up all of those things about me, that those are actually all untrue, and that I'm just a big liar, apparently. That's not even a joke. The amount of books that I've read within these past 3 months that have been, like, so against what I say I like is so funny to me. We read that series, which it was such a fun time. It was kind of crazy to read 2 series back to back. And then, so, I read, I guess should I group these together as well? I guess I should. I've read throughout the past, 3 months, I would say more September, October-ish, I've read the first 4 volumes of Yona of the Dawn, which is basically like a fantasy manga where we're following this girl who is a princess and kind of her journey on, is that a spoiler? On some life events that happen. And so far it's been really fun, and the, kind of magical elements we were kind of starting to get into. Now, does my library only have the first 4 volumes of this? Yes, I do. It's a betrayal, honestly, but I mean, I'm not opposed to starting a manga collection. It's just, I know the amount of money that I'm going to spend on it is gonna be crazy. But I would give this, the first 4 volumes, a 3.5 average rating, which I know some people are very annoyed and, what's the rating of all of these books? I know editing me is not gonna want to do that, okay? It is very fun. I will say the little, added, I forget the type of style it is, but they're, cute little character drawings that are, different from the rest of them, where they're, yelling at somebody, or it's, a little separate scene that he's drawing is really cute. I also think that the author he wrote about his cat and how he has a blog and he's taking photos of his cat and stuff. I was sitting there, I was like, this is just delightful. Now I will say I have encountered with manga is that there is a slight, or not even a slight, but there is a lot of sexualization of women. Now I don't know, because these series are have been running for such a long time, it might just be because that was a product of its time and stuff, but yeah, that is always something that I'm The next 2 are recommendations by different booktubers. Actually, well, one of them I don't even know if I classify her as a booktuber, but Carrie Can Reads was talking about Forest of Dreams and Whispers. I could never for the life of me get this title correct when I was talking about it in a video. I don't even know if I uploaded the video that's in. And that is by Katherine McDonald. I haven't said any of the other authors' names. I love doing that. But she was talking about how this was a fun little fae romance, or is it fae? Oh gosh, I've completely forgot what this book is even about. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Yeah, this is very much Jude Carden type thing, and she's a human, but she's this fae princess royal guard, and there's a bunch of different seasons and stuff, and there's this big bad guy that's trying to come in and cause, the prince who is cursed basically when he's 18, if he draws blood. After that, he will put all of the fae into an endless slumber, and basically he wants to do this, the villain guy wants to do this because he wants to kill all the humans and make them slaves to the fae rather than equals like they are now, which it's a nice little one-off story. I think she does have other books that are also other I hesitate to say Disney retellings, but they are. But yeah, it was a fun little quick one-off thing, and I had fun reading it. I was kind of just like looking for something that had basically a romantasy. If we're gonna be very honest with each other, I was just like, I want to read a romantasy, and I want a good one. And so I was just like, give me. But yeah, the next book that I read was The Game's Gods Play by Abigail Owens, and I gave this 4 stars. I don't know why I'm shocked by that. I kind of forgot that I rated it that high. Not saying that it's like bad by any means, but this is like, it's set in modern times. Again, something that I say I hate, and yet I've read multiple books now where it's had that setting, and I've rated it highly. There's like this tournament held by the gods every 100 years because Zeus like did some horrible stuff, and so they hold this tournament to decide who will be the new king or queen of Olympus, but they use humans to do this. So it's very much like Percy Jackson being sent on like quest type thing. Basically, Hades has never participated before, and she runs into him, and then as she's like leaving, or she's left this place, and Hades like snaps her back, and he's like, you're my pledge now, you're gonna do this little tournament for me. But the thing is, the pledge and the god tend to stay together and also like give gifts and advice and stuff. And so some fun things happen. Now I will say, I liked this for the most part. It was just the like Persephone stuff in it, and also some of the pacing was a little like, because it was like, oh, they are going to, but they haven't like fully yet, and I was kind of just like, so like when is, although I thought like, oh, this is gonna suck because the trials are gonna be like really fast and like not actually well written and stuff, because it's gonna be all about the romance. It actually was pretty good, the trials and stuff, and also the kind of relationships between the different pledges and the relationships between the gods as well was really well done. I actually really liked it. But next started my like absolute crazy bender that I had in October. But one that was on Kindle Unlimited, and an author that I've really wanted to read from before. But What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher is a retelling, and I wouldn't say like a reimagination of it, because it sticks, as far as I know, very true to the poem by Edgar Allan Poe, which is The House of Usher, I believe. I've never read it, but I've heard a lot of people say, or 2 people say, this book is so much better than the original thing. I gave this 4 stars. Now, this is such a fun little like horror thing. I actually do think that this is the book that stuck with me the most out of like the scary books that I was reading, and that's mostly because of the animal death and like animal harm in this that happens. It's a very graphic scene involving a bunny, but I did really love this because it's very much up my alley. It's set back in the day. It has a infection thing. It's set in like a creepy like old house with like weird characters. I did also say this in that video, but I think she did a really good job of, because this book's only like 166 pages, she is able to basically set up who the character is and have you completely understand the type of character that they are so quickly, and it's really well done. But this was very dark. Now, I'm not really loving the animal stuff within this, but yeah, it was a great way to kind of start off my spooky reading. And then the book that I got from the library is Natural Beauty by Ling Huang. I ended up giving that 3 stars. This book, wow, okay, so I, for a very long time, didn't know where we were going with this, because I was like, okay, commentary on beauty and commentary on the racism and classism within beauty, like industries and stuff. And I was like, okay, but like where are we going with this? Because some of this like beauty stuff was terrifying, and I was like, okay, I like this, but I'm like a little on the edge of my seat because I'm like, where are we going? But boy, did the ball drop. That ending was wow. I do really love the ending of this book. It is very sad, but I do really love the way that she kind of deals with everything in the end of it. It is very sad, but it's also kind of like, I don't know how else you end this, but like I said, commentary on the beauty industry, and I think that it does a very good job of like talking about how far are people willing to go to kind of meet this standard and keep it, and also the like, oh, what's the right word, the like abuse and dehumanization of people who are within the beauty industry, who are like testing on other people, or like, I don't know how to explain it that well. This is not good. But basically just like the distreatment of other people to get to this beauty standard, and also like it's just the fitting into like what the specific standard is and how they changed all of this. It's absolutely crazy, but it's also fantastic. And I don't really know how to talk about it that well because it's like so beautifully done within the book, and I sound like an idiot trying to talk about it at all. But I next read The Teacher by Freida McFadden. I rated it 4 stars. I would probably bump it down to like a 3.5. Again, horror books, great commentary on stuff. The Teacher by Freida McFadden was more of like a thriller than it was a horror, and also the responsibility and manipulation of older people. It was a lot of, there's victim blaming in this in the beginning of it, although I don't really know what it's made up for, but it's about like this very messy marriage, and then about this girl who is accused of sleeping with one of her teachers when she didn't, and she's getting bullied at school. And the messy marriage, the two people in it are both teachers at that school, and one of them is the English teacher who this girl who's accused of sleeping with the teacher really likes, and she ends up hating the wife of the messy marriage, who is the math teacher. So all characters within this, chaos, okay? And I was very also confused with this, where we were going, because there was just bombshell after bombshell after bombshell, and then it was like, oh, we're going this way? Okay. Like, I was just like, what is happening? And I think that Freida McFadden, I've heard that she's like really good with twists and people not being able to guess like where she's going and stuff. I agree very much with that, because I was not expecting the ending of this book, and I was very satisfied with the way that part of this ended. The like epilogue part of it, where there's a thing that's a relationship that's talked about that I didn't like. Okay, I didn't read these back to back, but again, we're gonna put them together. I read volume 1 and volume 2 of Chainsaw Man. I'm trying to get into manga, okay? Now, Chainsaw Man is very much fun. I hesitated to say it in the other one, but it does remind me of like My Hero Academia. I've never read the manga for it, but I did watch the anime for that. Don't judge me, okay? Yeah, because just in the sense that there's these demons that they have to fight, and they have these like special abilities. They got it from demons and stuff, and they're like crazy because of it. But just in the fact that there's like these group of people that are fighting these demons, and they have special powers to defeat these like villains and like bad guys and stuff. That's like the only way that they're similar, like at all. This one is a lot more gory, and also I would say a lot more like adult than My Hero Academia is. I just think the storyline is very interesting. like, some of the character choices and, like, what they're motivated by. If you've read volume 1 and 2, you kind of know what Denji is motivated by. It's still fun, though. I also think that the art style is really fun. Again, does my library only have, like, the first 4 volumes? Actually, the first, like, 3. I hate to admit it, but I probably would go and buy, like, 10 volumes of this just to read it. But in between volume 1 and 2, I read The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher, which I gave 3 stars. This one kind of undercut itself in the beginning because the narrator talks about being, like, safe and home because she's telling this from the perspective of, like, afterwards. And so I was kind of like, the stakes were taken away a little bit. And so there's other characters that you cared about that, like, the stakes were there because of them possibly being harmed. But this also, like, maybe I'm just, like, stronger than I thought, but this didn't really scare me either. Like, the way that the creature was described and, like, what it was doing, like, if that was happening to me, or maybe if I lived in the woods, yeah, I'd probably be terrified. But it was kind of explained as, like, a Blair Witch type thing, and it's basically, like, this cabin out in the woods where a bunch of weird stuff is happening, but this girl, because of her, like, grandmother, who was this horrible person, passed away. It's her task to go clean out her house, and her grandmother was a hoarder, so she's, like, there for a while, and she has her dog Bongo with her, and her step-grandfather had, like, this weird obsession with this book, and also, like, these diaries that she found. And then we also have the characters of the neighbors, and then some of the people within the town that she drives to, and it's just very fun, honestly. It didn't really scare me. I do want to say I loved the neighbors, and I'm forgetting her name, but there's the specific woman neighbor that I'm like, I love her so much with all of my heart. And I feel like if the creatures that are within this were more, like, gory or something, or I don't know, the imagery was just not that terrifying to me. Again, I don't live in the woods, so maybe I just, I don't understand. But yeah, I can understand reading that and being like, there's something outside of my house. The next book that I read was 5 Broken Blades. I gave it 3 stars. Okay, so again, another recommendation by Carrie Can Read. I saw that this went on to Kindle Unlimited, and I was like, gimme. This is, like, a very much hyped book, but Carrie Can Read called this The Adult Six of Crows. Now, do I have a bias against this because of the comparison to Six of Crows? And I'm going to be very upfront with you. Yes, I do. Okay? Now, I will say, I do think if I read this, even without that comparison, I probably would have been drawing one myself. Now, I do hate, like, every heist book being like, 6 of crows, 6 of crows, 6 of crows. Like, calm down. Not every heist book is 6 of crows, okay? But this did have 6 characters in it, which is really funny. But some of the, like, dynamics were very similar. Although I will say that this has a lot more political intrigue than Six of Crows did, and also is a lot more adult than Six of Crows is. So when Carrie Can Read said that it was an adult, she wasn't joking. Okay, I'm gonna put a quote up, because it was just things like that threw me off, because why are we just randomly putting that in there? Like, why can't we just, like, we can, like, make an innuendo towards that. We don't have to sit here and say, oh, this is happening because of, like, why can't we just leave it up to the reader's imagination? Or, like, I don't know why we need to be that explicit. Like, oh my gosh. I will say, I did like half of the characters in this. The ending, and I said this in my other video, and I feel like it's very rude, but it also feels so true to me. I think it was either When We Are Liars or We Are Liars or something like that. And I had read that, and I was like, you know, I remember being like, this book's so good, but that was only because the ending was like, oh my gosh, like, whoa. This book has the very much same energy with the ending being like so good that I think that that's the reason people are like, oh my gosh, because it has a twist that you would never predict, and it's very good. But the rest of it, and I feel like this book was too long. Now, is this book only like 512 pages? Yes. Is it also has a lot to address within it? Yes. But did it do too much and not enough at the same time? Yes. Yes, I do think that that did. Now, again, I do think that I actually do have a bias against this, which does suck because I, like, want to be a fair and honest reviewer of this, especially because it deserves to have its time in the light. But, like, to sit here and compare this to, like, my favorite book in duology, which is Six of Crows, feels rude, honestly. Like, I feel like this should not be, I think it should stand on its own, alright? I will say, a very interesting thing about this is that it is based off of Korean history, with the author being a Korean who was adopted by an American family, and she wrote this book after kind of going back and trying to learn more about Korean culture. And I will say, I think that it does a really good job of showing, like, the time period and stuff, and I think it is very interesting. But it's just, like, I didn't love it as much as I was hoping that I would. Anyways, the next book I read was Monstrilio, which I gave it 3.5 stars. So, this book, oh my gosh, is very heavy. Okay, I want to say that very up front. If you're planning on reading this book, if you've lost somebody very close to you, or anybody in general, and it has hit you very hard, or you're still grieving, this book may not leave you in the best mental state, because this book very much is a conversation on grief, but using a monster to kind of show that in a way. And just like Natural Beauty, it very much uses horror as a way to have a conversation about a topic that you would never get in, like, fantasy. Now, grief is very much a thing in fantasy, but the way that it's explored within this book probably wouldn't be. This follows a family and a friend who, their 11-year-old son passes away, and then she takes, like, a piece of his lung and feeds it, and it becomes this monster. That's not a spoiler, that's in the blurb, so don't worry. But I didn't realize it, but it is multi-POV, and so we follow the mother, and then we follow the friend, like the really close friend, and then we follow the father, and then we follow the monster in the end. And it's so interestingly different perspectives within this, and to kind of see this monster be a product of this guilt and what that means to the monster, and then also what that's like to deal with for the husband and the person on the outside of the friend who is still affected because their friends have lost something so big to them and grieving what their life used to be, but also now trying to help and deal with this new situation as well. And so it shows a very personal but also outside perspective all within this thing, and then also what the monster thinks about being a product of this. And it's so, ooh, like, it didn't, I think it didn't make me fully, I don't know why I said I think it didn't make me fully cry, but it definitely did make me misty-eyed. There's one scene specifically that's just so heartbreaking, but it's very heavy. It's not a fun book like some of these other ones have been. But I will say, I don't think it's meant to, like, scare me or anything, but it didn't do that. I do think the more, like, allegory for what this is and kind of the perspective of grief that this talked about will stick with me more than like this monster that did these things. This does also have animal death in it, so like warning, but it doesn't have like the thing that I appreciated about it, which is crazy to say about like any animal death at all, but is that they didn't describe how the animal was dying, kind of like how they did in What Moves the Dead. They were kind of just like, oh yeah, that animal's dead, oh no. Like that was it. Like they weren't like, oh, he like does this to the animal and it's dying. It's like, why do we need that? What do we need that? But that was like a thing that I appreciated, which is again crazy to say about any animal death, to be like, I appreciated that they didn't make it as brutal as they could have. Like I will say the ending wasn't as satisfying as I was like hoping for. I don't know what I thought the ending was going to be. I mean, I don't even like the whole like first half of this book I was like, where are we going? But yeah, that's my 49th book of this year, which is crazy to say at all. I am currently reading Gear Breakers by Zoe Hana Hikuda. I probably butchered her name. I'm so sorry. It is crazy to me the fact that I am almost like at my reading goal, and I will thank manga for that because I've read like 6 of them, and so that very much put me very far ahead of my reading goal from where I was, which was like 2 books behind. You know, I've read a bunch of genres and things that I claim to not like and liked them, so maybe I should shut up. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Tell me what you thought about any of these books, if you've read them, or if you have any suggestions for books you think I would like. And thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, baby.